Yes, yes, yes. What is up? What is up, MCR family? Another weekly or semi-weekly, bi-weekly edition of the show, live on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all the streaming platforms, of course, podcasts on all podcast distributors. Hit the like button, share the show, all that fun stuff. I'm Matthew Hunter, going to be breaking down, obviously, Errol Spence, Danny Garcia. And, I mean, I was about to say the last big U.S. fight we have, but no, that's not right. We have Canelo in just a week, and that was made just recently. But yes, coming down to the end of the year, basically. This is it. The wind down, the last quarter. And I will admit, I did not pay for this card. I admitted that before on the preview show. And I'm glad I did not pay for this card because the undercard was severely lacking of any sort of monetary value. But the main event was really good. I mean, it wasn't fight of the year contender in any way. It was a dominant performance by Errol Spence. And obviously one that should set up a far bigger fight next year in the summertime. A lot to get to on today's show. Plus Mayweather and Logan Paul fighting in exhibition. Yeah, we gotta talk about that, I guess. And, some other sort of miscellaneous topics out there. And I'm joined, as usual, on these shows by the one and only Gary in Dallas. Gary, how are you, man?
I'm good. We got Luke Campbell and King Ryan Garcia coming to Dallas, too, at the American Airlines Center. I guess that's January 2nd, so that's actually next year, but just a couple weeks away. I did pay for the Spence fight.
Oh, you did?
I did. Gary. Look, if there's two guys, look, I'm opposed to the pay-per-view model like you are, but if you're going to make a pay-per-view, let it be two guys in their prime, in the top 5 in their own weight class, and that's what we got, so I paid for it. I didn't pay for Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. I'm not going to pay for Floyd Mayweather versus, which Paul brother is it?
Logan. It's Logan Paul.
I'm not going to pay for that. I don't pay for trash, but look, if they give me a good product, I'll pay for it.
How dare you? Okay, Mike Tyson or Jones was the fucking event of the year.
Apparently, I thought the Garcia. I'm going to have a different take on a lot of y'all from what I've heard, but maybe some of y'all agree with me. I thought Spence and Garcia was a good fight. Not a great fight, but I thought it was a good fight. I thought it was fairly competitive, and it played out kind of how I thought it would.
What's the narrative out there? What's the temperature check, Gary? What do you think?
That Spence washed him. That it wasn't close. That it wasn't, and Spence was levels light years ahead of him. I didn't see it like that. I thought Spence won. Clearly, Spence won. I had it 8-4. I watched it again. I had it 9-3. Spence won clearly. I said he would win 8-4. This is what I said. The fight kind of went how I want. I think Garcia was competitive. I think he. Well, we'll get into it. We'll get into it.
We're getting into it now, obviously. I mean, there's not much to talk about in terms of news, so let's get into the fights, obviously. I will say this. Earl Spence dominated the fight. Washed, obviously might be a little bit hyperbolic, but he dominated the fight. This might be his best performance to date. You can make that argument. This is the best, most perfect, most complete Errol Spence performance to date. Coming off the layoff, the car crash, all that stuff, which is just crazy to think about. But that's my takeaway from it, is that I came away thinking that, damn, I mean, I didn't think Errol Spence was going to look that much better than Danny Garcia, and he kind of did. When we talked about Errol Spence being, levels above the other guys in the division a couple of years ago, so to speak, or that we saw him being that guy, him and Crawford are going to be the guys that are clearly the two that are above the crowd, above the field. And then Spence had some closer fights. Kell Brook was a competitive fight. Obviously, Sean Porter was a highly competitive, close fight. And the perception started to shift a little bit on Errol Spence and the margin of difference between them. And even I'm one of those people that have said Spence is definitely amongst the pack far more than I think what we previously thought. But he dominated Danny Garcia. I didn't think Danny Garcia, even though he might have won a couple rounds here and there, it wasn't because of his sort of offensive ability or success in the rounds. It's because Spence started throwing less jabs in that round. Right? It never felt like Spence let control out of his grasp, even in the rounds he lost. This was the most complete performance of Spence's career. So you are right that maybe the sense of this was Spence washing Danny Garcia. That's hyperbolic. You're right, and that this was relatively a good fight. Like, I was entertained by it for what it was and how dominant it was. I was actually really entertained by it for how dominant it was. But it was still utterly dominant. And I think this is, like I said, the best performance of his career. Gary?
It's tough because yeah, Brook was a real good performance. Lamont Peterson was a real good performance. It's the only question how much was left in Lamont Peterson. I don't know, right? I mean,
didn't he retire after that fight?
No, he fought Lipinets and lost to Lipinets.
Oh, that's right. That was a good fight too.
But this fight it was really, really good. He looked really good. He looked better than he did against Porter, but I think that has a lot to do with Porter just because I said no one looks good against Porter. Porter makes the fight so ugly and he's so rugged that I think that has more to do with Porter than Spence. Like, I think Porter is competitive or could beat on any given night anyone in this division. I thought Garcia did good work. I had the first 4 rounds watching it live. I had it 2-2. I thought Garcia won the 4th clearly, and the first round I scored for Garcia. I watched it again. I flipped it. And then I scored the 9th and the 10th for him. So at that point, I had it 4-4. It's still a possibility on the scorecards that he can even the fight up. Now, Spence came in and closed the show and did a great job, and I had an 8-4. I had Spence win the last 2 rounds clearly. Especially, 11 and 12, Spence took care of business. If Danny gets busier with the right hand, first of all, Danny was clearly losing the battle of the jabs. Danny doesn't have a great jab. So why is he jabbing with the southpaw? I don't know. Right? He was having success with his right hand. If you go back, and I don't have a religious fanaticism towards punch stats like some people do. If you go back and you look at the power shots, they both landed the same amount of power shots, which feels about right. Okay? I don't think that it's egregiously wrong. But then Spence dominated with the jab. Why was Garcia jabbing with him for the first, it seemed like 6 rounds of the fight? You can't jab with him. First of all, because you don't have a great jab. And second, he's a southpaw. But you were having moments with the right hand. You had a lot of moments with the right hand. So why didn't you just fire off more right hands?
The reason why, if I had to obviously see into the crystal ball of Danny Garcia's mind, is that he was not landing the right hand as well as maybe you think. So like when he was trying to counter off of Spence's jab, he wasn't finding much success. Spence was able to really, block a lot of the shots, or at least partially block a lot of the shots, slip with it, roll with it. Spence really didn't take any damage in this fight. If, in my opinion, I thought Danny's best work was actually to the body, not anything up top. Not the right hand up top, not the right hook, right straight, nothing, left hook. None of that up top really worked, in my opinion, because the jab, because of the southpaw stance of Errol Spence and his ability to utilize that to his advantage. But Danny had good work to the body. He just isn't a volume body puncher. Like Danny's style, like we predicted, leads very few paths to victory against a guy like Errol Spence. Because he's not going to throw 100 punches around like Sean Porter did. He's just not. So the short of it is that he just wasn't landing the right hand, I think, as successfully as you think, Gary. And that's why he did not throw more of them, because Spence was able to block a lot of it. With his glove, with everything, with just able to slip with it, whatever. Spence was able to not really get punished at all.
Fine. If you jab with them, you lose the battle of the jab, and then you let Spence get in the rhythm and make, you know what I'm saying? If you throw it
I didn't finish my point. Okay. Danny Garcia wasn't attempting to fight the battle of the jabs at first. He was attempting to counter off Spence's jab. He couldn't. So then he was left to fight the battle of the jabs, because that's all he had left. He can't then go into, well, I'm going to get on the inside, work under the jab, work the body, throw volume. That's not him. So then he's left only with, I'm going to stay at mid-range and long range with the jab, work from here, and get what I can. Right? Like, that's kind of Danny's shtick, so to speak. And also, Danny's not a combination puncher. So
had to be, right? I mean, I know he's not a combination puncher, but in this fight, you have to be a combination puncher, because one at a time, one counter left hook, one counter right hand is not going to get it done, and didn't get it done.
Mm-hmm. Robisky, I see some of your comments in the chat. I know that you want me to address them. I will when I can. Okay, I want to sort of tackle the fight first, then get to sort of ancillary issues like what's next for Danny Garcia, those issues. Any other thoughts on the X's and O's of the performance? Errol Spence's rust factor, did it seem to be there?
Oh, he looked super sharp, didn't he?
I thought in the first maybe 4 rounds or so, he looked a little bit robotic to a degree, but he kind of does at times. And then he got a little more fluid, a little more sort of natural with his movement. And that, I think, was just due to the first 4 or 3 rounds of any fight. You kind of are in that process, that feel-out process, adding in layoff, injury, car crash, near-death experience. I think he would just be waiting to see what Danny had. And then he realized, well, Danny's not going to press the action. I can kind of just pick him apart from range here, throw my power shots whenever I feel comfortable enough to do it, and just win rounds. And kind of put on a boxing clinic to a degree. To the point, like you mentioned, the Kell Brook fight being really good. I think the Kell Brook fight was really good for Errol Spence, especially since he had the finish at the end. But Kell Brook was far more competitive, had far more success, had far more damage against Errol Spence than Danny Garcia, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I still had Brook up on the scorecard. That would have changed because of the knockdown, right? He would have been down, and then he was completely out of it, so he wouldn't have won the fight even had he lasted the distance. Because it was 10th or 11th round knockout.
11th, right?
11th. It was late, but I still had Brook up on the scorecard because I'd given him all the early round, and then Brook was and Spence was coming on, and then the knockdown would have changed all of that. No, Brook was certainly more competitive. I thought Brook was winning round. I thought Brook was outboxing him. Garcia was never outboxing him. I thought Garcia had some moments of success, and we would disagree on how many. But I thought Garcia did some good work, but he was never winning the fight at any point. He was never outboxing Spencer or anything like that.
No, I'll be honest. I think Danny Garcia would really benefit from a trainer switch. I know that would never happen, but I think that would really benefit him.
And that's been a talking point. Look, I'm not going to disrespect Angel Garcia. Angel Garcia, how many good fighters, really good fighters, never get one world title? Garcia's won 3. So Angel Garcia's done something right. If you guys want to call Angel Garcia a trash trainer, that is ridiculous because he's won 3 world titles. Okay. I don't know what the game plan was really. Like nothing they did was working. I was pacing around during the fight, so I wasn't really listening to much what Angel Garcia was saying in between rounds.
Waving the Texas flag.
Yeah.
We got this, Spence. We got this. Keep jabbing.
But I don't really like. You can see he tried to counter, and then he tried to walk Spence down later in the fight. Mm-hmm. Spence didn't do much in the 9th and 10th round, and that's when Garcia put together a little mini rally, I thought. And then that was all snuffed out in the 11th, and Spence dominated the last 2 rounds of the fight. Shockingly, one of the judges gave Garcia the 11th round. We don't need to get into bad judging.
Texas too, man.
But they weren't Texas judges, though. None of them. They were all.
Yeah, but they still get assigned by the Texas Commission.
That's true.
You can say like, oh, they're not from Texas, but they're still assigned by the Texas Commission.
That's true.
Who are the judges for? Hold on, I didn't even pull up BoxRec for the cards this weekend. I'm such trash. I'm sorry, guys. I'm exhausted.
Common Vegas names, I think.
I'll pull it up. Don't worry.
You might have had the East Coast judge in there, like Glenn Feldman or something. But it was the names you would expect to hear in a Vegas fight or a New York fight.
What do you want next for? Let's talk about what's next, because I think the fight's pretty easy to analyze, to be honest. It's not like it's a complex fight that we saw. So what do you want next for Danny? Let's start with Danny first. I think that's also the easier topic than what's next for Spence. What do you want next for him?
So that depends on what Spence does. What I want for Danny Garcia, what I really want is a Keith Thurman rematch. Both of those guys need to win. Both of them are coming off a loss. Let them fight together. The winner goes back into title discussion, and the loser becomes kind of irrelevant in the division. There's that option. I think Danny. I know Danny's only 5'8", but Danny carries a lot of pop. Danny, what I thought was physically stronger, or at least as strong as Errol Spence. I think he could go up to 154.
He looked bigger than Errol Spence in the ring.
That's what I was saying. Like I think he could, because we always say Spence eventually was going to go to 154, right? We all say that. Damn. Garcia, I know he'd be short for 154, but he's the same size as Castano, right? Like, Castano's not tall. So, I mean, I think Garcia could go up to 154. Can he beat Jamal Charlo? Can he beat Jason Rosado? I don't know, but like I like to see him go up there and try. The other fight, so there's Keith Thurman. I would like to see. Then I would like to see him go to 154 or one of the two youngsters. I guess Virgil wouldn't happen, so Jared Enos would be the other fight I'd like to see him fight.
Yeah, the Jared Enos is not a PBC fighter, so I don't know what
fights on Showtime. Like I think, right? And I know he's not a PBC fighter, but
he's with Cameron Duncan, right?
Yeah, he has a managerial deal, not a promotional deal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think I love the Keith Thurman fight. I'll put it that way. I think that Danny, Rubitsky, longtime listener to the show, also proud Puerto Rican. So, obviously supporting Danny Garcia and waving that flag. He's saying that he wants Danny to retire. I think that's a little bit of a doomer mentality on this situation. I think Danny Garcia is still a top 6 welterweight in the world. I think he's still ultra competitive against everyone but maybe Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, and Manny Pacquiao, and that's okay. And
I think he's competitive with Pacquiao just because he's a really good counterpuncher. He can try to fight him like Marquez did. I'm not saying he wins, but I think he's competitive against Pacquiao.
Probably more competitive with Pacquiao just from a style perspective, from a size perspective, than Spence and Crawford, of course, and obviously prime factor. Danny Garcia is relatively in his prime. Manny Pacquiao is not. That might be a factor. But Danny Garcia can still beat a Keith Thurman or Sean Porter. Like, that's absolutely possible for him. He can still collect the belt, too. And I think, relatively speaking, the rest of the division, from number 7 on to 15, 20 ranked opponents, Danny beats them all. Like, I would pick Danny Garcia against the field. Ugas, Jamal James, Virgil Ortiz, Jared Enos, like all these guys that we kind of talk about as top 15 welterweights that aren't really with the top guys, Danny Garcia feasts on them. He's shown us that he does that, right? Like Danny Garcia only has losses to the very, very top fighters. And until Saturday night, those losses were razor thin. So I think Danny can absolutely continue on with his career, have let's say 3 to 5 more years of his career, have another 10 fights or so, make another 20, 30 million, and be good. Like, I think that's the route to do. Like, why not? Unless, he doesn't want to take punishment anymore, which is possible, then I don't think he should hang it up. And I think on top of it, in terms of, what's next for Danny Garcia, he's still going to hang with these top guys. Like, I can see him beating a Keith Thurman in a rematch. That's not out of the question. I can see him beating a Sean Porter in a rematch. That's not out of the question. Those styles kind of actually give a lot to Danny Garcia when Errol Spence kind of doesn't.
Keith Thurman's given away the entire prime of his career, hasn't he? Since the Garcia fight, right? He's given away the entire prime of his career. He beat Josecito Lopez, so what? Although he got a good win. That was a fun fight. But look who he beat. You know what I'm saying? I love Josecito Lopez, but let's keep in mind it's Josecito Lopez. And then he lost to
Pacquiao.
That's it. That's all he's done. And now he's taking another year and a half, going on 2 years. He doesn't have a scheduled fight coming up, so it's gonna be almost 2 years out of the ring after taking 2 years off. I mean, he's given away 4 out of 5 years of his absolute prime.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I've already, this. I compared him to Ricky Williams with Miami Dolphins back in the day. Like, the dude's on his own reality, his own universe, and I think he's kind of content with that. If he wasn't content with it, I would make it more of an issue, right? But I think the dude is clearly fine just playing the flute on the beach with his wife and just hanging out, smoking weed.
He's fine with that, right? But he also cares about his legacy. I want to be one of the great welterweight champions of all time. He wanted to fight Pacquiao because he wanted to throw a legend. Do you think 10 years from now, when it's all said and done, and either he gets in the Hall of Fame or he doesn't, do you think he's going to look back at his career and say, damn, I wish I would have did more? Or do you think he's just fine? I made a lot of money. I can do what I want. I don't know.
In terms of what I think he thinks the latter.
Okay.
To be honest, if I had to guess, right, the very limited experience I've had around Keith Thurman, the few times I've been around him, that's the sort of perception I get of him. A guy that definitely doesn't need boxing. He likes it. It's fun for him now, but he definitely now has created sort of an economic position for himself where he doesn't need it and is okay not doing it, I feel.
I met him. We were talking about options and trading options and stuff. Like he's you know, I don't know what his bank account looks like his investment, but he seems like a guy who has his money well invested and well taken care of. From what
absolutely.
Yeah.
I know for a fact Al Heyman has helped him on real estate investment in Florida over the last now 5 years. So I know he had a few properties the last time I talked to him in terms of like apartment complexes, houses, all that stuff. So yeah, same with Danny Garcia. Like all these guys, you know, do like real estate as a hobby, as like a side job. And in regards to like Keith Thurman's like legacy, I don't know what's going to be. It's a hard thing to sort of pinpoint because you're going to get people like me on occasion that go, man, that 2017 Keith Thurman, he would beat this Errol Spence. He would beat this Terrence Crawford. Like, you know, you're going to get that. And I think as time wears on and Thurman doesn't do anything to really add to his legacy, that becomes more and more of a minority within the community, of course.
You the 2017 Keith Thurman, Errol Spence had just beaten Brooke, and then Crawford, who had just unified and become undisputed at 140. I thought you were going to have a triangle thing where Thurman beat Spence. Spence beat Crawford, but Crawford beat Thurman. Just stylistically, I thought there wasn't a clear cut number one. I thought there was a path where each of them. Like, I thought, you know, Crawford could outbox Thurman, right? Like Thurman doesn't jab enough. I don't think he'd knock Crawford out. I think Crawford would win too many rounds. Although Thurman against Spence, I think he's got the legs where he can keep moving. He can keep Spence off him, and he certainly has the power to keep Spence from just walking in on him. So I thought Thurman matched up really well with Spence, and I thought Spence might be too big and strong for Crawford and Spence. So like those three, we could have had like another great run between those three guys where they all beat each other. Unfortunately, we never really got it, and none of them have fought each other.
Yeah, for variety and a myriad of reasons, of course, right? I mean, we're gonna get into that now, I guess. What's next for Errol Spence, Gary? Hold on, let me pull this up because obviously, what I think the two options are, and what even PBC is mentioning, is that it's Crawford or Manny Pacquiao. Those are the two options for him. However, I think a lot of hardcores, not casuals, a lot of hardcores want the former, not the latter. They want Crawford Spence. Crawford says, Spence fight's not important. I don't need him for my legacy. He needs me. And you know, we have Spence kind of echoing that.
But what did you think of Terrence showing up ringside? Do you think that helps build some buzz to make it a big fight?
No. I mean, he gotta live up to his words. If he say he's not worried about me, then I don't know why he doing what he was doing here. I probably wouldn't go to none of his fights. So I'm not worried about Terrence Crawford. Like I said, I'm going to enjoy my time with my kids and chill out and just reflect on this year and a half that, you know, I came back and, you know, we're going to move on in the summertime and see who I fight. So we'll see. I got to talk to my manager, Al Heyman, and we'll go from there.
But what did you?
And Kevin Iole reporting from good old reliable Sean Gibbons. God, these two people, Kevin Iole and Sean Gibbons, I just don't trust at all. But they're saying this, that Manny Pacquiao was impressed and thought Spence looked good, and he wants to fight Spence in 2021. Gary, your thoughts?
Okay. I'll take things that will never happen for 500. What is Pacquiao versus Spence? That's not gonna happen. Like I don't doubt that he said that. Like he may very well have said that. I'm not gonna swear. I wouldn't bet that he said that, but I wouldn't doubt it either. Right? He's not gonna fight Errol Spence. His wife told him he couldn't fight Terrence Crawford. His wife's not gonna let him fight Errol Spence 2 years later.
Yeah, but he beat Keith Thurman. Maybe the wife doesn't care anymore.
That was still he was 42, bro. At 40, Tom Brady was still a great quarterback. At 42, he's trash. Like, you age exponentially quick at 40, 41, 42 years old.
Gary, do I have to remind you of Bernard Hopkins?
Yes, I know. Everyone is Bernard Hopkins and Mariano Rivera. I get it. No, I get it. Everyone is just like that.
Fucking athletic freaks. Hey, Manny Pacquiao might be on enough juice, allegedly. It might not matter. His calves are massive. I mean,
if he fought Thurman again, like 6 months later, I thought Thurman would beat him in the rematch. I just think Thurman got behind and didn't have enough rounds to catch back up, right? With a knockdown, and he fell behind. But I thought in a rematch he would have started quicker, and he would have took the decision.
Damn, Gary with a pro Thurman take. Like the whole show, he's with the pro Thurman takes. It's just odd.
I told you my entire opinion of him changed when I met him. There's no way you could talk to him. And I talk about 40 minutes an hour that you couldn't like him. Like,
yeah,
they tried not to like him.
He's definitely probably one of the fewest people that I can describe as like down to earth, like in the sport that I've met at that level, of course. But back to Spence and Pacquiao or Spence and Crawford. Here's the deal, and I feel like God, it's a broken fucking jukebox, man. Like a broken record. Like we're just repeating ourselves, right? Though at this point, let me table Crawford Spence because it's getting different. So I don't know really how to perceive, especially Crawford right now. But Crawford, Spence Pacquiao, like you said, it's the fight that seems so unlikely to happen. Pacquiao got his big win against this current generation, against Keith Thurman. Why go back to that well when he doesn't have to? On top of it, I don't know if monetarily speaking, Spence has built himself into such a pay-per-view draw that Pacquiao has to fight him. Now, Spence has, I think, built himself into a sort of mid-level pay-per-view draw at this point, and that might work, but is it enough to guarantee that Pacquiao will be enticed for it? No, I don't think that's the case. And also, like I said at the very top, it's Sean Gibbons speaking to Kevin Iole. Two people I habitually just do not trust in the sport. Like, for very different reasons, but I just do not trust them in any fashion, shape, or form. So I am highly skeptical of that news. That's just to be honest. Now, Crawford Spence. When Crawford was with Top Rank, it was very obvious Top Rank was derailing the situation because they perceive themselves as the A side, right? Crawford is, at this point in time, seemingly detaching himself from Top Rank. It's not a formal separation at this point in time, but it seems like it's going in that direction, of course, though we don't have official word. It's Crawford being very blatantly overt, stating that he thinks he's the A side when he's not. How can you come into a negotiation when you refuse to negotiate, and on top of it, you refuse to accept your placement with your actual material leverage in the situation? So I don't want to point the finger at Terrence Crawford because I like Terrence Crawford. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time, to be honest. But Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Like, you can't do that. You can't be out there stating that I don't need Spence. He needs me. When your legacy, to be honest, Crawford, is built on like a pile of sand. Okay, your entire legacy is 140-pound division unification, and that division was utter shit at the time. It doesn't matter. Like 30 years from now, we're not going to be talking about Crawford and Dongo. Like, we're just not. No one is. Okay? So the reality is that Crawford does not have the leverage he thinks he does have. Okay? The fact is, the reality is that he actually needs Spence more than Spence needs him. If anything, the last 3 years is proof of that. It's empirical proof of that fact. Okay? And I get that we just want the fight. And we don't want to pick sides. I get that. But the reality is that Crawford is not in the right here. So we can't make excuses for it anymore. Crawford, go and take your 40% and be the B side. Like, this isn't hard. You have done nothing to show that you are the equivalent to Spence's drawing power or his greater, his superior. So just own up to it, man. Like, if this is negotiation tactics, that's fine. Like, if you're just stating this in the media and that's your first, sort of offer in the negotiation, but, you're accepting of a low offer, that's fine. But I honestly don't think that's the case. We now have years of this being repeated. This is not just a negotiation tactic. He legitimately believes he does not need Spence for his legacy. And that's just crazy talk. Like, that's fucking insanity. Gary, and any thoughts?
So there's two things, right? First, I want to get into this, right? Like, what if I was PBC and I came to Crawford and said, okay, look at this. Spence sells 300,000 pay-per-view sales. You sell 100. So we can't give you a 50-50 split reasonably. He's the A side. What if we did this? What if I gave him 45, you 40, and the winner got the other 15? Now, if you win, you got the lion's share. If he wins, he got the 60% that he wanted. I think that's a reasonable negotiation, right? I don't know. I don't know. Like, I kind of feel like this is Wilder and AJ, where like both guys are fine with the fight if they get their shot, if they get the split they want. Otherwise, they're fine with it not happening too.
Yeah, I think that AJ Wilder is a great comparison to it, because it does seem like there's like equal blame to both sides, and that both sides feel like they're in a position where they don't need the other. And to a degree, they might be right? Especially like AJ and Wilder at the time. Like, they really didn't need each other. Like, did we need the fight? Yeah. But did they need each other? No, they didn't. And like we've talked about in the past and other shows, the last year and a half, 2 years, now more like 3 years probably, because this whole year is just a blur, for them is empirical evidence that they didn't need each other to, to grow their brand, to create legacy-defining moments, because they did that. Spence and Crawford might not be in that position. Spence might be, but I don't think Crawford is. Because if Crawford doesn't fight any of these PBC welterweights who are in the top 5 of the division, then what legacy does he have to build?
So here's the second half of what I want to say. Porter is ranked number 1 by the WBC, the IBF, and the WBO.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like he can have the WBO exercise that option if he so chooses. So he can force himself on to a Crawford fight. He said to Kelly Abdo, what's your name? Kate Abdo.
Kate Abdo? Abdo. Something like that. Kate.
That she asked him, which one would you prioritize? He said, I would prioritize Crawford because we hadn't seen that fight. I haven't been in the ring with him yet, right? I think Porter, in his heart, thinks that stylistically, Crawford's a better fight for him. And then he can beat Crawford, and now that fight with Spence would be for the undisputed welterweight title. So I believe in 2021, and you can call me optimistic, because in 2019 I said we were going to get Spence Crawford in 2020. Obviously, that didn't come close to happening.
Yeah, but you got like a
okay. You get Porter versus Crawford in the first half, May, let's say. And then the end of the year, you get an undisputed welterweight, undisputed welterweight champion. I don't know if that's so. That's either Thurman. I mean, that's either Spence or the winner. I'm not saying Crawford wins that fight.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. No, I get what you're saying.
Who I pick in that fight, right? But Spence versus the winner of Porter Crawford. I think you get the end a year from now.
Hey, man, that's super optimistic. That'd be great. Like, best case scenario would be obviously Spence Pacquiao, and then Crawford Porter. You have a mini like 4-man tournament. But
I agree. I think that's what Showtime, because Jordan Plant, who I flew with to Mississippi for the when I went to the Ugas fight, she's a sweetheart. She's a great part. Like, she's a nice person in the world. She did not do her job. Terrence Crawford's there. She's in the crowd. You're not going to ask him at all. You're not going to ask Errol Spence at all about the guy that's in the crowd, the number 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 pound for pound fighter in the whole world who came here to call you out. You're not even going to mention his name. She didn't do his job, and I think she's great. I really do. Like, she's such a nice person. But she didn't do her job there. You got to say something about Terrence Crawford being there.
It is what it is, man. Hey, at least we got like PBC Fox graphics showing the WBO champion.
Because I said once one of their fighters fight him, they're going to bring it up. Now, Porter, I think in my heart of hearts, Porter's going to fight Crawford in the next 6 months.
I hope so. You know me. First off, that's one of the fights in the division that might be the most intriguing, in my opinion, in terms of like how it will play out, the style mesh of those two. It's again, it's sort of like Canelo, not a one-to-one analog, but it's kind of like Canelo, Caleb Plant. That's clearly not the best fight because Caleb Plant doesn't have the best resume, but something about that fight, the style matchup, is just intriguing. It's vastly, vastly intriguing to me. Crawford Porter, in its own way, of course, has that. Where something about it just intrigues me. There's something about it that just feels like it will be a Hall of Fame worthy fight. Right?
If Porter can do what the Mean Machine did and make it a scrap, Porter wins the fight because he's infinitely better than the Mean Machine, right? Because the Mean Machine hurt him several times. The Mean Machine's not a puncher. We haven't seen him ice people, right? I mean, he's not a big puncher. I'm not saying he's feather-fisted, but I'm saying he's not a big... Like, Porter doesn't carry a ton of one-punch power, right? But he's got to carry as much power as the Mean Machine, right?
Yeah.
We've seen him fight at a level, and he's not knocking people out. So he's not a big puncher.
Yeah, but neither is Porter, to be fair.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying Mean Machine was able to hurt Crawford a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Porter will be able to hurt him, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, he's not going to knock him out with one punch, obviously. But if he can hurt him and he can slow him down and he can stay in front of, because he jabs better, he moves better. Porter does everything in a boxing ring better than the Mean Machine does. Now, if he can take his blueprint and implement it better than the Mean Machine did, he could win that fight.
Absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. Method D'Souza saying, Matt, is there anyone you do trust in the sport? You seem to have a low opinion of everyone. No, I mean, I just talked about Keith Thurman, how I think Keith Thurman has like one of the most down-to-earth people in the industry. I like Lou DiBella. I talk to Lou periodically, not like a lot, but periodically I talk to Lou. Who else do I like? There's a lot of trainers I actually really like, to be honest. Like, people that are behind the scenes in terms of fighter camps tend to be really cool people. Like Dan Birmingham, obviously Keith Thurman. Again, Keith Thurman connection there. Super cool guy. Derek James with Errol Spence, awesome guy. Like, do I trust these people? Like, that's a different topic. Like, when it comes to like news and information gathering, and they're a biased party, that's where it becomes a different aspect to it. There's a lot of people I like in this industry. There's not many I trust when it comes to them talking about their own business matters. And that's just the nature of how I know PR works, how I know media works, how I know disinformation works. So that's all it is. Sean Gibbons, though, I really don't like. I'll be honest. Fuck Sean Gibbons. That dude has like weird Photoshop pictures of me with like dildos. It's weird. He has a thing for me.
You like what? What?
I don't know, man.
Do the audience know the picture? Picture in question here.
There's no way the audience knows that picture.
Okay.
That I think just Rob sent the group chat, right?
I don't know where Rob got it from. I don't know where it circulated from. If that's something people would visit.
Oh no, it was no. Sean Gibbons posted a picture from like his photo roll, like on his iPhone, and then one of the pictures below, I think, was the picture of me
with a microphone as a phallic symbol,
with a dildo photoshopped inside my camera. Which I gotta say, first off, the Photoshop job was actually like pretty decent, because like a dildo and a camera are not the same size object and everything, the same dimensions, and able to really rotoscope everything out. Like I was actually really impressed.
How he thinks that's an insult on you? How is you having some weird homoerotic fantasy about me insulting to me? It just makes you look like a weirdo to the boxing public. That's all that makes.
It makes me look like an in the closet boxing manager that's obsessed with a very low level media person. Yes. Dude, but the other day, what's his name? It's some other YouTuber that I have muted. So I always forget his name. Something like horse boxing. I forget his name. He like obsessively talked about my teeth for like days.
What's wrong with your teeth?
I mean, they're not the greatest teeth, but like he just like obsessively talked about it. Right. And then he would like send pictures to me on Twitter of like other people's teeth and say, "This is your teeth. They're bad." People are weird, man. People are weird.
Yeah, people are weird.
You know?
I do want me to respond to that.
You don't have to respond to that. It was just
when someone sends that to you, they're trying to elicit a response, right? It's not like, you know, if we were going somewhere and you had something on your shirt or something on your face, I would tell you so you get it off, right? Like, look, you got mayonnaise on your lip, right? That
was so wide of you, Gary.
Well, I said mayonnaise because Rob would eat mayonnaise, right?
Yes, he would.
Okay. He's got English. He's got no taste buds in his mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. Food?
I eat keto now, so I have to actually eat mayonnaise. But I can't eat mayonnaise without flavoring it with hot sauce or avocado. Like I don't understand. Mario Barros' assistant once asked me why people like mayo. I'm like, you're asking the wrong white person. I don't have an answer to that. I don't like mayo, right?
It was funny the other day because totally off topic, guys. I'm sorry, listeners. Totally not boxing related. My mom was making my kid grilled cheese sandwiches, right? And I make them with butter on the bread, right? So when I toast it, it's butter on the bread, not mayonnaise, right? And she was putting mayonnaise on it. And my kid was having a fit. Like, no, that's not the right way to do it. I'm like, that's good, son. That's good. Get you off that mayonnaise shit.
There's just no taste to it. Like, I get the texture of it, but there's no flavor. So now you got to pour something on it, right? Like hot sauce or the avocado mayonnaise. Like that has a flavor to it. But there's mayonnaise.
The only reason I get putting mayonnaise on anything is tuna.
Okay. Yeah.
And like really dry ass sandwiches that like need a little bit of like liquid viscosity to it. If you understand,
else you can put on like barbecue sauce or honey mustard or something like that.
Of course there is, of course. But I'm saying that's the only acceptable time to actually use mustard because then like it has an actual use to it. So you're not using it for the flavor, you're using it to add the texture to the sandwich.
Mayonnaise with like potato salad with mayonnaise is better than German potato salad is the best, right? With the vinegar and oil. That's top level potato salad. But then you have either potato salad with mustard, which tastes weird to me. Like I really don't think mustard goes on potatoes. I really don't. And then you have potato salad with mayonnaise, which I think is better than the mustard kind. And then like macaroni salad with mayonnaise is good.
Yes.
So there are uses for mayonnaise, but like a mayonnaise on a turkey sandwich with nothing else, that doesn't do it for me.
Yeah. I'll be honest, this might sound really bad actually. I usually don't even put condiments on it nowadays. I just put extra cheese.
You can do that. Cheese. I put some bacon on it.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe some seasoning. You know, I'll add seasoning to it, but that's about it. The condiments just add mess to it.
Marinara sauce is the king of all condiments. Fight me.
What a
everything. There's nothing you can't put marinara sauce on.
Who am I talking to? Mussolini? What the fuck? Marinara is the best condiment ever.
And then blue cheese. Blah.
Oh, you don't like blue cheese?
No. Blah. Blue cheese is a trash condiment for trash people.
So like for wings, what do you use?
Ranch.
Ranch? Okay.
Ranch is number 2 condiment because it goes on almost everything, but not as good as marinara sauce.
I think your ranch perception of it being number 2 might outweigh your anti-whiteness on mayonnaise. Like, you know, because like ranch is like the kissing cousin of mayonnaise. I'm sorry. Let's get back to boxing, guys. I'm sorry. I apologize.
White people like their food with no flavor. No, that's why people like Rob. I have an
It's
Italian
definitely
mom and a Southern wife. I hate my food with flavor. I don't eat food with no taste. I don't do that.
You're Mediterranean. It's different. Like, look, this is where like not all white people are the same conversation. Like, yes, like the Northern European whites have no flavor because they live in snow all the time. The Mediterranean whites and sometimes olive-skinned people, they have flavorful food, great meat, great pasta, great bread, great condiments, great seasoning, anything. Why? Because the Mediterranean is fantastic. That's why.
I personally, and I think it has something to do with before refrigeration. It's just a theory. Like the meat would spoil, so to get a couple extra days out of it, you'd season it. Whereas if you're in Iceland or England, the meat's good forever because it's basically in a freezer.
It's frozen.
It's a theory. I don't know. Because if you go to warmer places, they always season their food more than the colder places.
That's true. I mean, that's why, like, for a long period of time in the world, for those who don't know, little history factoid, salt was worth more than gold for a very long period of time in our sort of world economics. For that reason, pretty much alone, it was a preservative for forever, and still used as a preservative in large parts of the world today. Digressing, though, we did have a super chat. Let me get to it. Though it's about the Floyd fight. Liam, I see the super chat. Someone please remind me if you can.
Someone had a super chat real early in the show about what's next for Danny. Is that what we were talking about?
It wasn't a super chat, but that was just Robisky. He was in early before the show started, had a few questions, so I wanted to get to it just because he came in early, hit the like button, stuff like that. But Liam had a super chat question about basically it's a comment about the Floyd Mayweather fight. So we'll get to that in a second, Liam. I'll try to remind myself to go back and click it so it gets on the screen. Any other thoughts about the car? Let's talk about Spence Garcia. Let's finish that topic up. Buy rate, what do you think it is? Sort of temperature check on the night of. What did it feel like? It didn't feel that great, did it?
Yeah, I'm going to say 320.
Oh, I'm going down.
Yeah?
225, 250.
I still think he's got a higher baseline than that. And again, I didn't like my Twitter wasn't popping off like of everyone watching the fight.
Even like boxing fans didn't seem to be like hyped for this one. Like the hardcore, I didn't see like the hardcore boxing Twitter sort of usual people talking. I saw a lot of nothing, to be honest, on the timeline on Saturday. I'm going lower, yeah, 225, 250. Any thoughts about Sebastian Fundora? I mean, absolutely wrecking Habib Hamed, Eduardo Ramirez pick up a win, Josita Lopez pick up a win. Your boy, Vito Milicki Jr.
Why is that my boy?
Because I said so.
All right. I think he's not good.
Burley Brooks lost. That was Spence's boy.
That's Spence's boy. Dallas, Texas. That was not a good way. Both his boys lost. Fernando Garcia lost too to Juan Tapia, who's also from Texas. He's from the Valley, like Omaha, Warren. So that was a win-win for me. I can just whoever won, I can claim. But let's talk about Fundora.
God,
the guy is good, man. The guy is really, really, really good. Like, he's ready? What's he ready for though? If he could fight a J-Rock or something like that, because he already destroyed Gallimore. Rosario. I mean, who is he ready for?
Hold on. Let me pull up the rankings really fast. Is Liam Smith still in the division, or did he go to 160?
Liam Smith, I think, is still at 154.
If he's at 154 still, that's the perfect name for him. Honestly, like a durable European guy that has a lot of volume, a lot of grit, but not a lot of talent. Like, and who's been in there with other top names. That's who I would kind of put him in there with. Tony Harrison, maybe. That might be a little bit step too high, but that
a step too high because Harrison beat Jamel Charlo and then fought him really well until getting stopped in the second fight. Like, Harrison's good. How about the new look Jarrett Hurd, who likes to shoulder roll?
I feel like you if you're PBC, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, you don't. Like, I don't know what you do with Jarrett Hurd. You sit him down and say, never do what you did ever again. Okay.
Think
Never
about
do
it.
that.
Francis, Jose de Lopez just fought the guy that Jared Hurd fought.
And Lopez stopped him. Jared Hurd didn't.
And like, not even like this, like, ignore the stoppage. Like, one fight was just dominant and like semi-entertaining. The other fight was watching paint dry. And it was Jared Hurd being completely ineffective in anything he was doing.
Jared Hurd said after he lost to J-Rock that you guys haven't even seen the best Jared Hurd. I can fight off the back foot. And everyone laughed at him. And then he tried to do it. Was like when Dwight Howard said, I can shoot 3-pointers. You can't shoot a 10-footer. You can't shoot 3-pointers. Right? Like, just stop it. Like, Jared Hurd was so good at what he did. Now, it didn't work against J-Rock. It's not going to work against everyone. I don't think anyone said Jared Hurd is an unbeatable force at 154 that can walk through everyone. But he can have success with it. And he beat Laura with it, right? Like, he beat Tony Harrison with it. He stopped Tony Harrison with it. Like, he's going to win some. He's going to lose some, but he's going to make entertaining fights. For him to do what he did was absolutely ridiculous in his last fight. That was so ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. That was bad. Who else? Jack Kilkay, if you want like another like European veteran, so to speak, right? Another guy with experience. Not a lot of name value, but experience.
I want to fight someone better than that. He's destroying the guys at this level. Like, I want him to take a big step up. I'm not saying
I know Austin Trout might be hard because of the network difference.
that's a good name.
But like that would be a great fight for him. You know? There's enough names. The issue is that there's a lot of names that like I would like to see him fight, but not now.
Sergio Garcia.
You know, like that's a fine name. That's one that I would be okay with. But like, do I want to see Erickson Lubin versus Fundora right now? I would totally be down for it. That would be really exciting. Is that the fight I want next? You know, Eslani Laura versus Fundora.
Ishe Smith when you need him. Can someone find Ishe Smith?
Shout out to Ishe, man. Shout out to Ishe Smith.
Oh, he's making a scrap.
I'll be honest. Sebastian Fundora is high on my prospects to watch list. Very high. He's the next Dave Benavidez, in my opinion. He will absolutely get a belt.
Yeah, he'll get a belt.
Yeah. Faster than Virgil Ortiz.
It doesn't matter who gets a shot first. I mean, it's all political at this point. I don't know.
Gary, I just love how like there was a second there were like this motherfucker just said that, and you were like about to start ranting. You're like, no, wait, there's an out right here. I can just go out. It's okay. I don't need to engage with Matt and his blasphemy.
Fandora's going to have a belt at 154. Virgil Ortiz is going to have a belt at 147. Who gets there first? I don't know. I mean, it's look. Fandora's probably got a good shot because he's with PBC. He's
Joey Spencer versus Fundora.
Yes. Not like Raymond Guajardo. Raymond Guajardo destroys him though.
You don't actually believe it.
Fundora versus Clay Collard.
That actually might be a fun fight, but like that's not what I want.
Yeah,
that's a step back. You know, like you're right in the sense like he beat Gallimore already. Like he's already beat like that top 20-ish level guy. He's not ready for the top 15, top 10. He just is.
Kid's name, they called him the Rooster. That used to find the Golden Boy cards. He's from your hood. 1,000 punches. Like kept throwing punches.
Yeah, it was Nico something.
Yeah, Nico Matthias or something like that.
Yeah.
He used to fight that guy.
Whatever happened to him?
I think he retired. He lost to Jose Soto Carras in a fight where they both threw 10,000 punches.
That's right. I forgot about that. Shout out to Golden Boy, man. Just ruining careers.
That's why Fundora might get a title shot first because he's with PBC. He's got Samson Lukowitz as his promoter.
Mm-hmm.
And well, Virgil's he's got a good manager now, right? That's going to look out for him. But being with Golden Boy doesn't scream confidence that they're going to go get him a title shot.
And even like regardless, like I feel like there's probably gonna be at least a vacant belt at 154 soon. You know what I mean? Like there's more parity at the top, so that means there's gonna be more opportunity for vacant belts, for belts that were just exchanged. Therefore, there's sort of a level of weakness there. So absolutely, I think that Fundora has maybe an easier path.
Well, I think Virgil Ortiz could win a title at 147 today.
Ortiz is more established than Fundora, but it doesn't matter because his road to the next sort of stage is far harder to get to for a litany of issues.
He's a special talent, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like watching Tiger Woods come up. It's like, okay,
No, I wouldn't go that far.
I would go that far. He's gonna get a world title. I think he could beat Terrence Crawford today.
Here's where I kind of push back on that, Gary. Think about like Canelo. When he was fighting Matthew Hatton, did you go like, this is the next guy, man? He's it.
I never thought Canelo would be as good as he is right now. I never thought that until obviously he was this good. But like coming up, even when he was fighting Cotto and those guys, I never thought he was going to be like the pound for pound number one guy. I said he's good. He'll be a top 10 pound for pound guy. He'll sell out. But I never thought he'd be the best fighter in the world.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like Ortiz, like he might be that. That's possible. You never know. He's just Ortiz needs to fight a top 10 opponent like Ugas, Jamal James, someone like that we've seen, that we have experience with. Thomas Delorme, of course.
Steph Curry. When Steph Curry came in the league, it's okay. He's good. He's a shooter. He can be a combo guard. He can play the one and the two. He'd be undersized too, but you know, you can take him off the ball. You look at him and say he's going to be the best player in the league. He's going to win MVPs over KD and LeBron James. I'm going to laugh in your face, right? But he turned himself into that, and that's kind of what Canelo did. Now, Canelo had a world of talent when he came into the league, into professional boxing. Right? He had a world of talent.
Yeah,
I never thought you were looking at. You look at guys like Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford, when he destroyed what was the guy that
Prescott, right?
Oh, look at this guy, right? Like Virgil Ortiz. Look at this guy. Floyd Mayweather. When Floyd Mayweather came up, he destroyed everyone, man. Freddie and Gennaro Hernandez. And they were like, look at this guy. This guy's all ready to be the best fighter in the world. I never got that inclination with Canelo, but here he is.
Yeah. Talk about like maximizing your like athletic ability, right? Do you want to talk about the rest of the fights this weekend, meaning Billy Joe Saunders, the Anthony Yarde card, or do you want to talk about Mayweather, Logan Paul, pay-per-view?
Let's talk about the fights because I don't want to talk about that. Let's save it for the end of the show when there's 3 minutes left.
Okay.
The Billy Joe Saunders fight. You want to start?
Yeah. I'm going to try to say this without being hateful, but it's going to come off hateful. I'm just prefacing this point. All credit to Billy Joe Saunders because he tried.
Mm-hmm.
He really tried to like put on an exciting fight, and B, finish his opponent. Like he was coming forward, throwing volume, being the aggressor, going to the body. Like he was fighting atypical. Like when we talk about like Danny Garcia needing to fight a different style in order to win, Billy Joe Saunders and like Demetrius Andrade to another extent need to fight another way to like make us care, if that makes sense. And Billy Joe Saunders attempted to do that. He threw everything he had, and the kitchen sink at Mark Murray. And it was still like kind of You know, like all credit to Billy Joe Saunders. Like he did what I would have told him to do, and he did it. But it was still like, I'm just watching Billy Joe Saunders throw 1,000 punches around and nothing's happening. Like there's no like dramatic effect here. There's no impact, if that makes sense.
Because I agree with you. I was getting pissed off around 7 or 8. I said, get rid of him. And he tried to. He really tried to. Yeah. Is he that featherface where he can't hurt anybody?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't look like he looks like a guy. I'm not saying he's got great power, but he looks like a guy. He's built strong. He's got like solid legs. Like you should be able to generate power. And I agree with Matt. He didn't just go through the motions like Andre does, or like Harlem Eubank did, or like we'll get to Anthony Yarde, who did it giving away rounds until the 12th, and then was shocked that he lost. Did you watch that fight?
Of course I did. Yeah, I sent it to you.
All right.
We'll get to it. Don't worry.
He really tried. It was just he was horrible at it.
It's not that he was horrible at it. It's just like that's not him. And on top of it, like he is that feather-fisted. So like no matter how much offensive success he had, at no point did I ever like get a sense of theatrics or again impact. I feel like is the best word to use, because like when you watch a sport, there's the theater of the unexpected, right? And in combat sports, it feels like that is epitomized more so than any other sport. But that like you never have that with Billy Joe Saunders. There's never a theater of the unexpected with a Billy Joe Saunders fight. It was totally expected. And again, there's a reason why I prefaced this sort of conversation with me saying that I'm not trying to hate on him, because he did exactly what he should have done. That's just not him. And this is probably more of a like me issue than a him issue, right? Like he did what he should have done, and I still wasn't entertained by it. That's probably on me. You know, I'm gonna put that on me more so than him.
I wasn't entertained by it either.
Yeah, but that's the nature of maybe to rephrase it. I'm gonna put that on our perception of boxing. Like our ingrained primal perception of boxing, which is like Rocky movies, to be honest. Where like we perceive it to be blood and guts, modern day gladiators. And when it's not that, it's not entertaining. And that's on our perception of the sport, that it has to be blood and guts, bread and games, sort of action. And it's not that all the time. And there's certain fighters that we excuse that for whatever reason. I don't know why. Like Caleb Plant, for example. Like at no point do we ever go into Caleb Plant thinking like we're about to see something that's like truly electrifying and like breathtaking, viscerally violent. Like we never go into a Caleb Plant fight thinking that, but we still go into a little more excited than Billy Joe Saunders fight, right? Yeah. I don't know what that is. I maybe it's because I don't like Billy Joe Saunders. I don't know. I'm putting the onus not on him this time. That's what I'm stating. It's not his fault that I was not entertained, because he did exactly what he should have done.
He did, but he should have got him out, right?
He couldn't. I mean, Martin Murray's only been finished by one fighter, and that's Triple G in the 12th or 11th round of their fight. Like it.
He's 5,000 years old. Shane Mosley never got taken out. If you fight Shane Mosley today and you're a good welterweight, you should take him out. How old is Martin Murray? That guy's 1,000. How he lost to the guy that he had a draw with the guy that had that lost to De La Hoya, the middleweight. Who did De La Hoya win his middleweight title against? German guy.
Felix Sturm.
Okay, that guy's 5,000 years old. Martin Murray fought him to a draw, and that's when he didn't get his world title, when everyone thought he won.
Hey, Martin Murray's only 7 years older than Billy Joe Saunders.
So is he like 37? Is that all he is? He's my age?
He's 38 years old.
He's a year older than me. And 31.
Yeah, Billy Joe's 31.
Okay. I would have guessed he was 42. Like I could not believe that guy was still fighting.
He was on a winning streak. Oh no, he wasn't. Yeah, he was. He was on a 2-fight winning streak.
He fought a hungry guy fighting for a sandwich. I mean, who did he beat?
I mean, in like any respect,
What
Gabe Rosado.
Oh, you're right. He did beat Gabe.
He beat Gabe Rosado more convincingly than fucking Daniel Jacob.
Danny Jacob. My favorite tweet was about after the 6th round of that, 5th, 6th round of that. Errol Spence just tweeted, "The hell is Jacobs doing?"
Dude, that was the best thing ever, man. The fact that like the entire community was like, "What the fuck are we watching?" for that Jacobs Rosado fight was just perfect, man. So good. Yeah, Martin Murray. I mean, I'll be honest, that might be like all he's known for. Like he's beat like other guys, like in terms of like either domestic guys or semi world level guys, but
he almost beat Sergio when Sergio was on that winning streak, when Sergio was a pound for pound guy. That was a real good fight. I thought, look, Sergio won that fight, but that was a really good fight.
Hey, Gabe Rosado might be his best win.
Yeah, his other best wins are a draw and a loss.
No, like Nick Blackwell was a right win at the time. Like they're both like undefeated UK prospects. Like that was a fine win. Who else did he beat? That might be it. Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah, because all of his other losses are like decisions, close decisions, except for Triple G. No, I think that again, Billy Joe is somebody that's not an A side. So when he's in the A side in a tune-up, in theory, it's never going to be good because he's not an A side and he's not exciting. It's like Andrade. Like Andrade is never going to be the exciting A side guy with a tune-up or fighting a guy that's not on his level. Never going to happen.
Fight on that card. Wait, no, it was what card was Andre supposed to fight? Was it that one?
Yeah. No, the Jacobs card. The Jacobs card.
Jacobs card.
Yeah, the Jacobs card. And he's supposed to fight who's the Dusty Harrison, right?
Aaron Hernandez, yeah.
Yeah, they do look a lot alike. Yeah, I mean, again, that's what I have for Billy Joe Saunders and that fight. It was as exciting as he could try to make it, and it still wasn't exciting. James Tennyson picked up a win that made a lot of people collectively, I don't know, lose all mental faculties and say that James Tennyson.
Or two of them.
Hey, you had what's his name? The British former cruiserweight and commentator.
David Hay.
No. Nelson. What's his name?
I don't know.
Not Steve Nelson. That's not his name. What's his name? UK chat. Come on, let me know. What's the dude's name? Why am I forgetting it? But you had him out there on Sky. Johnny Nelson. Thank you, Johnny Nelson. You had him out there saying that Tennyson should fight or will beat Tank Davis.
Just fight.
Dude, Tevin Farmer knocked out James Tennyson in 5 rounds. James Tennyson does not belong at the world level in any division. Doesn't matter that he's at 135 now instead of 130. For the people that lost their minds after Friday and thought that James Tennyson could be competitive against world level opponents, please stop.
Have him fight Tanahara.
I mean, sure.
It's a good win for Tanahara. Tanahara picks him apart like I think he would, outboxes him over 12 rounds. That's a good win.
Yeah. I want Tanahara to do something like a little more, I don't know, impactful than a James Tennyson fight. Like, who gives a fuck about that? Shannon Courtney picked up a win against Dorota Norik, and that's about it for people that I know. Gary, any thoughts on the UK card or this UK card?
I thought Tennyson looked good. I don't know what that means. He's got to fight better guys, but I thought he looked good. So that was impressive.
It's a first round knockout. That's always going to be somewhat impressive. But I mean, who's Josh O'Reilly? He's undefeated, but who was he?
He's the heir to the O'Reilly Auto Parts fortune.
Oh damn!
No, I'm just making that up.
All those annoying ass commercials. The other UK event though that happened on Saturday was Anthony Yard losing to Lyndon Arthur in a hotly contested, controversial decision, Gary. We have not really talked about this fight on the group chat. You've only mentioned it briefly on this show like a few minutes ago. I get the perception that you thought Lyndon Arthur won this fight.
It was really unimpressive, the whole fight. It was kind of like Jacobs Rosado. It was not much. But I wasn't scoring it closely, but I had King Arthur up 5-1 or something like that after 6. Like, yeah, I thought he won. Now again, you could switch some of those rounds because nothing happened. But the thing, like when Yard did nothing until the 12th round, like, and then shocked that he didn't get this. Like, guy, you didn't do anything. Like, yeah, my card had King Arthur winning, but I didn't care who got the decision. I could see that it was close. I was giving the close rounds to Arthur because I thought his jab was better. But if you flip some of those rounds, thus flipping the fight in the other direction, I'm fine with that.
Again, I didn't really score it because I watched it after the fact. I already knew who won, so it didn't matter how my score looked.
I didn't know when. I just assumed Yard. Yeah.
I saw one article on Saturday about the fight that showed that like Lyndon Arthur like won. That's the only media sort of presence I saw for the fight. I'm of the perception that I thought Anthony Yard won due to like I thought he landed the better shots, and I didn't really think Lyndon Arthur like won the battle of the jabs per se. Like I just didn't see that for large parts of the fight and entire rounds at time. Like there was again entire rounds where this is what happened, where both guys tried to jab and they were too far apart and like nothing was landing, and they just like were content just doing that. Right?
Did you have my points?
No, I didn't score the fight. No.
Okay.
I thought Yard landed some good body shots. I thought he like landed the more effective shots. I thought Lyndon Arthur was like trying to be on the back foot, trying to do his Joe Joyce shit, but like Joe Joyce was landing the jab. I didn't see any guy really landing their jab.
It was awful. It was terrible. It was
like
Well, they thought he broke his right hand for half the fight because he wouldn't throw a right hand.
So the only thing we had to go off of was like, well, then who landed like any shots of note? Because like I'm not giving anyone the battle of the jabs here. So I thought Yard won the fight mainly just because I thought he landed better power shots and more power shots than Lyndon Arthur. That's not how you score fights. I understand that, but that's just how I saw it when I watched it today. Though, like I said, it was a fight where both guys were out of range, throwing jabs that had no effect, weren't landing, and entire rounds, that's just all it was. So it's controversial in the nature that I think either guy could win because that's what the fight was. There was nothing that happened of note. I will say, though, to give them a little bit of some lifelines here. I don't think they're bad fighters. Like, I've seen a lot of people say that like, Anthony Yard's trash, he's overhyped, all this stuff. I don't think that's the case. And in fact, I don't think Lyndon Arthur's a bad fighter as well. I think they're both clearly like talented fighters. Neither one wanted to commit. And when that happens, you get bad fights, and that happens. Like, guys, like all those listening right now, you guys have been listening for a long time. You guys have been watching boxing for a long time. It happens. You have good fighters in there that neither one really wants to commit and make a mistake, and 36 minutes goes by and the fight's over. And that's kind of what I saw here. I'm not going to write anyone off from this fight because it was shitty. Because Anthony Yard, I think, is a talented prospect / contender. Lyndon Arthur, I think, has enough talent from what I've seen that he intrigues me. And light heavyweight's not the deepest division. So I don't see why the sky is falling mentality on Anthony Yard is happening when it's not like he really got blown out in any fashion. Gary, any thoughts?
I mean, it depends on look. Neither fighter's trash. I agree with you. Both fighters have skills. Is Anthony Yard overrated? Maybe because they hyped him up like he was a big deal. I don't think he's a trash fighter. I think he's a decent fighter, but I only think he's a decent fighter.
Who's they?
I don't know. I feel like Rob was one of them. Like the UK boxing.
You gotta piss off Rob with that because like Rob's not like a BT Sport Frank Warren guy.
Okay, maybe
I think
Frank get a that fight so quickly in his career.
I think Frank Warren and obviously Anthony Yard's own trainer Tunde are really good at promoting Anthony Yard. Right? Is that being overhyped? I don't know. I never saw the media co-sign on him like they do Joshua Buatsi. I've never seen that. I've never seen the fans co-sign Anthony Yard like they do Joshua Buatsi. To use like the UK equivalent on the other side of the street, right? If anyone's like really hyped, it is Buatsi. Yard is self-hyped. You get a lot of videos of him in the gym doing pad work and like saying shit.
But there were pussycats in this camp. There were no lines in this camp. Only pussycats, house cats.
Like shit like that. Like it's. I don't rate that as being overhyped because that's not a separate group rating them in any fashion. It wasn't the fans doing it. It wasn't the media doing it. It was AR doing himself. And some in the chat saying Buatsi has skills though, dude. No, we're not talking about their skills. Only talking about like how they're being hyped. Who is hyping them? Buatsi has media attention. He has fan attention. Yard kind of had neither and still has neither in a way.
But like, if you scored the fight for Yard, that's fine. But why didn't Yard cut off the ring? Why didn't he? He tried to be the aggressor. I feel after the first couple rounds, but he wasn't good at it. And then like he couldn't cut off the ring and make it a scrap, right? Like I feel like there's more things that Yard can do, and he didn't do them. Like he didn't execute anything. He was just content on throwing jabs.
Yep.
From long range, like.
I mean, if you ask me like why they didn't commit, I don't think it was a technical issue. Like I don't think there was like something that Lyndon Arthur was doing that made Anthony Yard not commit to offense and vice versa. I think it was a mental thing for whatever reason. You had a big UK showdown. One of them's undefeated. You had British titles on the line. The winners are obviously going to advance to the world level again, or for the first time if you're Lyndon Arthur. So I think it's just a mental factor. A big fight. I I'm nervous. I got anxiety. You know, I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to get knocked out. And that's what happened. And if you're Yard, I mean, to be fair, the last big fight he was in, he was knocked out.
Is LaRon Richards 168 or 175?
Sorry, repeat that again.
LaRon Richards, super middleweight or light heavyweight? Is that one that fought on the Billy Joe card? Nobody.
Oh, okay. That's I'm like he's not on this card. Yeah, super middleweight.
Okay.
He fought at 172 though. That's the technical. That's what they weighed in at. So it was a catch weight technically, but
another unbeaten British guy, Lennox, whatever his name was, Lennox Clark, or whatever. That was 68 or 75.
Lennox Clark. Which one's that?
LaRon Richards. Who did he beat before this fight?
Oh, before this fight?
Yeah.
He fought Lennox Clark and then he fought Tommy Langford.
Okay. What those were at 68?
Can you talk into the mic, Gary?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That would help. Those are both at 68?
Yes. And they actually weighed in at 68.
Okay. Then he's at 168. Because I was thinking of 75, I think those guys might be able to beat Anthony. He might be able to, but it's a different weight class.
It's possible. I don't know. I mean, any other thoughts on Anthony Yard, Gary?
I think he's good. I just don't think he's going to be a world title holder or anything like that.
Well, Lynn Arthur, any you want to see him in a world level fight next? Same thing.
I think sure. Yeah, I think he loses, but yeah, I mean, he's good. He's not bad. He's a good fighter. He's got skills, but there's no next gears, right? So, I mean, at 75, he could have some success with Joe Smith until he gets knocked out. You know, like.
Well, I want to go that far fast. I would be like, I'd make a Solomon Barrera matchup first before Joe Smith, or a Jesse Hart matchup first before Joe Smith. People that are easier.
I'm saying, like, will he ever get to a world championship?
Oh no. But that's fine. You don't need to be a world champion to be a good prospect, in my opinion. You know, like I don't think Ortiz is ever going to be a world champion, but he's still a good prospect, right?
Marshall Ortiz will hold belts at 2, possibly 3 weight classes.
3 is ridiculous. You need to stop, Gary.
Why is that ridiculous? He's one of the best fighters we've seen. Like, there are guys, good fighters, like that, great fighters win belts in 3 weight classes. I'm not saying like they all do, but it's not unreasonable.
Gary, there is little chance I see of Virgil Ortiz growing into a middleweight frame.
Well, he's got the height, right? Like, he's 5'11". He's not a little guy. I mean, it just depends on how his body. He's only 21 or 22. Like, he still hasn't got his grown man strength. Like, it's scary how good this kid is. I don't know what his body turns into.
Yeah, it might turn to like an android or something. Like, who knows? Might become a Terminator. Anyways, let's get to the news, Gary. Let's get to the.
Hey, by the way,
What was that?
he beats Terrence Crawford and Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman today.
No, he does not.
Today.
Let's talk about what is happening today, or not really happened today, but what became official yesterday, and we have to talk about today. Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul exhibition, February 20th. It's official. Gary, your thoughts on just this headline alone before we get into the details of the different pay structure that they're going to have for this pay-per-view, all of the particulars of it. Just the thought of Mayweather versus Logan Paul exhibition 2021.
I have no interest in this. I will not be watching this. I don't know why they're doing this. I guess they're doing it as an exhibition because they would never sanction it, but they've sanctioned Floyd Mayweather to fight against a guy who had 0 professional fights, prize fights, boxing. Of the top 100 things I care about, this doesn't make the list. Like, I don't know. You guys are into this? I mean, I know. I get we have to talk about it. I get it. It's just I don't understand why. How old is Floyd Mayweather now? 45?
He's in his 40s.
Like, it doesn't do anything for me. Like, I don't get it. Like, it doesn't do anything for me. And now, like, the pay scale is interesting. I think we should implement this in boxing. But that's the only thing that's intriguing to me. The fight itself, I'm not going to watch. Although for $25, I got to Christmas or something to get it for $25. Am I going to pay? Because once it goes past that, right? I'm not going to pay the 60, 70 bucks, whatever it went to, but for 25, do I pay it? I don't know. I'm an addict, maybe. I have no interest into it. Are you going to buy it? Probably.
Neither a location nor weight division has been designated for the event, which will air live on pay-per-view. The show, which lands just 4 days before Mayweather's 44th birthday, will be distributed through fanmeo.com, a website dedicated to selling online meet and greets with celebrities from all genres. I wonder how the meet and greet industry is going with COVID. Must be a booming industry. The event carries 4 price tiers, beginning with an early bird special, which will allow viewers to purchase the show for $24.99 through December 28th. And a sign of optimism, a second early bird tier. I like how they frame that. In a sign of optimism, you get to pay more for this shit. I love how they frame it. A second tier early bird tier of $39.99 has been offered once pre-sales surpass the 1 million buy threshold. So once it goes past 1 million buys, the price goes up for the pay-per-view. The price increases to $59.99 beginning on December 29th, and then to its full suggested retail price of $69.99 beginning February 11th, 2021. There's a lot to sort of dissect with this. One, obviously, it's an exhibition between Mayweather, who's around 150 pounds, and Logan Paul, who's around 200 pounds. You know that I think the sort of casual mainstream media, especially in sports media, is going to pay attention to that greatly. You're going to get the Shannon Sharps and the Stephen A. Smiths and the Skip Baylesses of the world talking about how, hey, Logan Paul is a bigger guy. What weight division is this? That's going to be a factor. I do wonder the whole FanMeo aspect to it, because I've never heard of that website. I'm assuming, Gary, you haven't heard of that website either.
Why? Because I'm old. I can't know what FanMeo. No, I've never heard of it.
Gary, if I haven't heard of a website, I'm 100% assuming that anyone older than me.
I'm sure I know of that you don't know. I'm sure I can find one website that I'm aware of.
Name one. Name. You have to name like superlibertarian.com. Anyways, you mentioned that the price tier system intrigued you or interested you.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I think it's a way to generate sales. Look, if this was just $70, there's a 0.000% chance I would buy this. None. Not even interested. But $25 though. It's like if you ever watch those infomercials, right? And they sell you crap you don't need to drunk people at 2:00 in the morning.
Yep.
It's always $19.99 because $20 they found through marketing and research is the price point. People say, oh, I'll buy it. I don't need that, but I'll buy it. You've kind of hit me with that. Like, so $70 you're out. $24.99. Yes, I might buy it now. Like now you got about a 40% chance of me buying it. So you have 0% chance of getting me for 70, but now you have about 40. And like as we get closer, we're still 3 weeks out. Like I will probably end up buying it before that date. I think it makes a lot of sense what they're doing. And then it goes to 40, which still isn't bad. And then it goes to 60 and 70. Like you're gonna get 1 million, I would say pretty quickly. It makes sense to me to do that. And then you're going to get people who buy it later. It's an interesting model, and I think it works. I think you should do that. Not necessarily with this exact model to get to 1 million, but give a number for these Charlo pay-per-views and these little smaller pay-per-views where people were like, I'm not paying that $70 for that. What about 25? Yeah, I'd pay 25. Okay, for 25. But you have to act early and then promote it early. Not the last week before the fight. Like, it's interesting. I'm okay. Like, $24.99 is a price where it seems within reason to me, right? Like, you're giving me garbage, but you're not charging me an arm and a leg. You're only charging me an arm for it. So,
Richard Carey trying to asking like, what's the model? You pay less if you wait longer. No, the model is that there is a goal that they have set at 1 million pay-per-view buys. Under that goal, and before a certain date, it's cheaper to buy the pay-per-view. After the date, or after it exceeds 1 million pay-per-view buys, the goal that they have set, it becomes increasingly more expensive to buy the pay-per-view. And as the dates roll on, it becomes more expensive to buy the pay-per-view. My issue with this is that while it is beneficial, obviously, to early bird customers, of course, and consumers, and in theory, I think will increase sales, right? At least gross sales. And this could be a model that other pay-per-views could use and increase overall sales of their product. However, when it comes back to, because how I think of it in this issue, when it comes back down to the essential point of should we have a pay-per-view model, period, in this industry, or shouldn't we? And this is not answering that question. To me, it's one of those like band-aids over the issue. Like, oh, we're not getting as many buys because, people aren't making as much money. They have unemployment skyrocketing. The fights we're producing doesn't have the same mainstream cachet as older fights. Like a lot of factors, right? So therefore, we're going to make it cheaper for early customers, and therefore that's going to fix the issue. No, the issue is the system, is the pay-per-view model itself in a lot of ways. I understand that that's probably, especially in today's climate, today's system, today's economic structure, it's naive and idealistic to think that we need to get off of this model entirely. But that is kind of how I view it. So it's one of the situations where I understand that this is, in theory, a more consumer-friendly model while also being pro-business because, in theory, it's supposed to increase sales. But that's all it is. It's trying to make consumers happy with paying for content that we largely shouldn't be paying this much for anyways. That's kind of how I view it. Especially when boxing is a working blue-collar sport, to make our consumers pay so much more than other sports that are white-collar sports even, just never makes sense to me. Gary?
I don't know how they know when they're going to get to exactly 1 million pay-per-view sales, right? It takes them days and days to count the pay-per-view sales. How are they going to know when they get to 1 million? So I feel like that's like, call now, act now, and you can save 20%. Like they picked a date, and that's when they, the December.
Well, to be fair, I mean, I don't know how the distribution of this pay-per-view is going, because FanMeo doesn't have apps on smart TVs or PlayStations or Xboxes or Apple TVs. Like, there's no app for FanMeo. You know what I mean? It's like you're not paying distributors, or you're not distributing it to other content providers or whatever it may be. It feels like it's going to be all in-house on fanmeo.com. You have to go to the actual .com on your phone or your desktop and buy it directly through them. Therefore, it should be easier to tabulate.
Okay, yeah.
That's my thinking. If this was Triller again, which has apps on smart TVs, etc., then it becomes more of you're dealing with distributors. Therefore, it's more of a wait and see for pay-per-view numbers to come in. That's my thinking. Because, again, I don't know what FanMeo really is. I've never heard of it, never seen it at all. Gary, any other thoughts?
Floyd Mayweather made fun of Canelo Alvarez for fighting on an app. Now he's fighting on an app. Just put that out.
Well, to be fair, it's not an app, it's a website.
All right, okay. Whatever, sure.
To be fair.
Yeah.
And that's what Liam, his super chat was Leonard Ellaby making fun of the idea of Tank Davis going and fighting on DAZN, an app that nobody watches, yet Floyd Mayweather is fighting on a website that nobody watches and no one's heard of. That's true, of course. I mean, there is obviously the hypocrisy of it, but I mean, he's a fucking promoter. Okay, he's not consistent with his messaging. Wow.
I just don't get why people I want to fight on pay-per-view. I don't care where I fight as long as I get more money, right? Like I don't understand this. Like I it doesn't make any. If you want to have me fight on the weatherchannel.com and stream it to 5 people, okay, how much am I getting paid? That's really all I care about. Like I don't understand. Like,
well, exposure is a factor. Come on.
At this stage of your career?
No. Well, we're talking about other stuff. Like we're including Tank in this conversation too, because that's what Liam was talking about, right? So
Okay.
Mayweather, of course, doesn't matter because, I mean, he's Mayweather. Logan Paul is probably the same sort of situation where, like, he's Logan Paul. Like, his followers are going to go and watch his stuff regardless, even if they pay for it or not. They're going to consume his content. These lower level guys, they're absolutely, I think, have a give and take conversation with their management, with their training team about, do we go towards more exposure and try to get more fans and then get more long-term monetary growth from that? Or do we get short-term monetary gain with, big promotional or network contracts? Like that is a give and take there. That is a reality. Now, is it one where it's always black and white? Of course not. I think every fighter has their own situation that they have to address when it comes to that dynamic. But Floyd Mayweather, of course, no. I mean, guys of that star power, Manny Pacquiao's, these people, no, they don't care what they're on. If they get paid and it's a lot of money, they don't care.
That's this thing that people want to fight on pay-per-view. I don't get it. Like, I don't like, if it doesn't make you any more money, why do you care? Like, I don't understand. Like, is it an ego thing? People pay $70 to watch me, but not that many people did. Right? Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get why that's like relevant to people. Like, I fight on pay-per-view. Okay, so what?
I hope this is a troll in the chat from Richard Carey saying, you sound like you just hate DAZN. DAZN looks like it has, or it had/will have the best schedule for boxing in the U.S. Oh my God.
Yes. It's got Jacobs Rosado. Got Haney versus Gamboa. The best.
Billy Joe Saunders, Martin Murray.
Oh, that was in the UK, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
We got it, but yeah.
Stop it, people. Like, we had 2020 happen. Like, we don't have to, like, lie to ourselves. It's okay. But yeah, Floyd Mayweather, Logan Paul, I think it's going to do big business because it's Mayweather and Logan Paul, regardless of what website's on and all that bullshit. And regardless of the pay scale system, I think it's going to do monster numbers. Kind of like the Tyson Roy Jones number, which I think is confirmed to do over 1.6 million pay-per-view buys and produced $80 million in gross revenue for Triller. Obviously, $50 million was spent just to get the fight. But still, I mean, you're making a lot of money. You're making millions, so you're happy. Gary, just a quick sort of question. Do you see like exhibitions being more common in the next couple of years?
Boy, I hope not.
Like, there's a short-term like bubble for this industry.
I think you're gonna get. I do. I hope not, but I think you're gonna get things like this and things like. I think you're gonna get like
Holyfield, Buster Douglas fighting Mike Tyson. All that.
Fields called out one of the Paul brothers, but Logan Paul, I don't even remember.
No, Jake Paul.
Jake Paul. I think that might happen.
No, that won't happen. Stop.
What? Just because of the imagery?
That and Clarissa Shields is not Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather. People that are big stars. That's just the reality. Like, the people that are in these conversations, if you notice, are like
star though, right? Like, and like you tell me that people. I don't know if the Paul brothers are loved or hated, right?
No. What I'm saying is, like, they're stars, but they only go out for other stars.
Okay.
Same with anyone else we're talking about. Like, Mike Tyson isn't fighting Kevin McBride again in a rematch.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Like, he's not fighting Peter McNeely again, or anyone. He's not fighting any of the big giant white dudes that he beat up on the way to Larry Holmes. He's not fighting any of those guys again that we don't know. He's fighting people that we do know, and not only like we know, but everyone knows. Like, these big exhibition fights are about getting this huge wide net of pop cultural zeitgeist and attention, right? Like, that's what it's about. So that's why you only hear Evander Holyfield be mentioned with Mike Tyson right now, or James Buster Douglas, because they have a mainstream cachet because of obviously Mike Tyson's career as well. Mayweather, Logan Paul, like they're both stars. Mayweather, McGregor, even though that wasn't technically an exhibition, that was a real fight, but in my mind, that was an exhibition. That was 2 stars. Clarissa Shields is not a star. That's not happening.
Yeah.
If Ronda Rousey wanted to do it, it would happen. Like, that's the reality because Ronda Rousey's a star.
Why did she become a star and not Clarissa Shields at any level? Well, like, why did she? Because she became like one of the most famous for a span, one of the most famous athletes on the face of the earth. She really did. Why her to that degree and not Clarissa Shields to any degree?
There's a lot there. One is you have obviously the corporate backing of the UFC versus the corporate backing of Salida Promotions.
Okay, that's a good point.
You have a multi-billion.
Ronda Rousey's attractive because she's not attractive at all. I never got that. Like, she's
cute. No, she's cute.
I never saw that at all. Like, okay,
She's cute. I think. I mean, is she like a Victoria's Secret model? But no, of course not. But like, neither was like Layla Ali, but she was still cute back in the day, I would say.
I don't see that in Ronda Rousey at all.
Anyways,
I don't see it. Wouldn't if she sat next to me in class, I wouldn't even say that was a cute girl in class at all.
No, she's attractive. I think she's attractive. I think maybe you're a little bit off on that, Gary. 92 Aku saying she's sneaky hot. That's so funny. Well, I mean, first off, she had the corporate backing even before the UFC of Showtime, and remember, she was a primary draw on Showtime through Strikeforce, so she was just far more of a priority at sort of the very beginning, to be honest, than Clarissa Shields from a corporate perspective. Then you add the UFC, which is a multi-billion-dollar company compared to the Salida Promotions, which is a multi-six-figure company, if I had to guess. Right? I don't think Salida Promotions is a multi-million-dollar company. I'm guessing it's a multi-six-figure company. You know, like, we're talking about stratospheres of differences here in terms of actual corporate back, in terms of how they can push the buttons to make you pop, make you a star. On top of it, Ronda Rousey was electrifying. Like, that is a reality. Like, I know, like, people maybe don't want to admit that, but like Ronda Rousey's run through Strikeforce and the UFC before she lost was perhaps the most dominant run I've ever seen in combat sports. Like, it was Edgar Berlanga, where, like, you know, knocking out people in first rounds, though she was submitting people in first rounds. But she was doing that against top 5, top 10 competition. And like good opponents. Like, this wasn't like, you know, bad, bouncers or taxi cab drivers. No, these were established, credentialed women that were fighting before Ronda Rousey even fought. Okay, and she smoked them all. So you have that on fact. You have that sort of, entertainment, visceral factors. You know, she's throwing people around, breaking their arms, like literally breaking their arms in half. Just, great stuff. She is a draw in terms of how she can talk and present herself. Similar to Clarissa Shields. Like, there's a little bit of that angst factor. I think Shields has that going for her too. But the difference is, and might be where I have some people hate on me in the comments and all that, Ronda Rousey is a blonde white girl. She can be a little more angsty and a little more aggressive, and it come off a different way than a black woman. That's just the unfortunate reality of American culture and American sort of psyche, right? I think that was a massive factor. But of course, I think the corporate side to it is just as big. Like, Clarissa Shields doesn't have a multi-billion-dollar company that is backing her 100%. That they see dollar signs in her. It's not happening for whatever reason. And maybe it's because Clarissa Shields is not knocking out everyone in the first round like Ronda Rousey is. Maybe it's because she isn't a blonde white woman. Maybe it's because of all these other stuff. But it kind of seems like it's all of it. Like, it's this, this melting pot of reasons why one person's a bigger star than the other.
It's just like,
hold on, 92 who? I will block you. I know you're saying JK, but don't ever do that. Don't ever call me a liberal communist. I will block you. Not even like a soft timeout. No, I will block you from this show if you ever even jokingly call me a fucking liberal. Stop. Yeah. But that's why. If I had to like explain to you or explain to anyone why Ronda Rousey is a star and not Clarissa Shields, it's probably those three big reasons.
No, that makes perfect sense.
And you know, she was cute. Like I'll be honest.
I never saw that. Not even like not.
I think this might sound off in a way, but I think like since Clarissa Shields has had like some work done on her teeth, she's looking a lot more pretty. She should be out there, I think, kind of using her sort of physical appeal to be a bigger star. I think men do it too. It's just not as overt. Like Ryan Garcia definitely plays on sexual appeal.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Noah Hoyer probably had half his pay-per-view sales from women.
Absolutely, because my grandma and my mom bought those events. Yeah. And somebody bring up the WWE appearances too, Matt. That always helps. I think it helps to a degree, but that didn't make her a star. Like same with like Mayweather going on the WWE. Like Mayweather was already a star. You know what I mean? Like Ronda Rousey was already a star coming to the WWE, even with her like guest appearances, like The Rock and stuff like that, right? I remember watching that stuff in college. Like I was in college when that shit happened. Richard Carey, I'm not sure black versus white really matters too much. Many fight fans are black. It's more to do with style. When we talk about mass appeal in America, you're talking about a country where, 13 or 17% of the population is black. Like, less than 20% of our population is black. The vast majority is white. For the vast majority of our history, we've accepted white people at the very top and not black people. That's just reality.
A quick analogy, right? Like, and I don't agree with Matt on, like, all the social justice stuff, right? But, like, I'm going to give you an example. Darryl Strawberry was a complete waste of life, a waste of talent who should be in jail because he had a major coke problem and was an all-world baseball player. Josh Hamilton has the exact same story as Darryl Strawberry, and he's an American icon. Just notice the difference.
I mean, he's made book deals off of that, right? Like,
look at the redemption story of Josh Hamilton. This is amazing. He was left for dead as a cokehead. Darryl Strawberry's got the exact same story. Darryl Strawberry was a waste of life and should be in jail. It might not even be a conscious thing, but look how those two guys were treated. Same exact story, same exact talent. Like they were identical baseball players, right? Massive arms, great speed, the prettiest swing you ever saw. One guy, both all-world talents, right? One guy, American hero, American story of redemption. The other guy, waste of life.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that.
I would say, in terms of like, nowadays, it's a little bit harder, I think, to like really compare the two. But like, let's say when Clarissa Shields was like first coming out of the Olympics, and she didn't get corporate backing. But before she didn't, if she did have corporate backing, this might be a comparable conversation in terms of Ronda Rousey, Clarissa Shields, where are they at? Because I think the idea of like a multi-billion-dollar company coming in and saying, hey, we're going to build you and make you into the entire sport. You can't take away that material factor. Clarissa Shields has never had that support, ever. Not anything close to it. And that is so hard to get rid of. And that might be due to the perception of, again, Dana White came in saying, oh, there's a hot white girl in Strikeforce and Showtime armbarring everyone. I know I just told the media that I would never have women in the UFC, but she's kind of cute. She's exciting. She's getting decent viewership on Showtime. I may buy her. I may make her into something. I may make her into the entire sport. That never happened with Clarissa Shields. There was no one that came in and said, I see something in her. I see that she's a talented person, a talented fighter, a beautiful woman. No one came in there from the corporate billion-dollar level and said, I want to support her. And you can't get away from that. It's impossible. And I think the idea of like KOs and all that, yeah, that's a little bit of a factor now. Because like, let's say like if it's a big if, let's say Clarissa Shields had only first round knockouts. Would she be a star right now? Maybe that's a conversation to have, but I don't think it's a long one. I don't think that's the primary factor. It isn't. If Ronda Rousey wasn't armbarring everyone, I don't think it would have affected her star power that much, to be honest. I don't. If she was still winning, it wouldn't matter. If she had the $1 billion company support, it wouldn't matter. That's just the reality. Gary, sorry for going off that tangent.
Next question. Yeah.
But it was a good question. That was a good conversation. What else do we have here? I think that's it, Gary, to be honest.
Yeah, well, later in the week to because we got the big fight, the big boring fight this weekend. We'll do a show Thursday, something like that.
Wednesday, tentatively Wednesday. I'm on like call because my grandma had some dental issues come up, and the dentist office is only doing same day appointments. You have to call in at 8 a.m. and make an appointment for that same day. So it's very hard to schedule anything right now because of that. God, fucking, I hate this whole COVID situation.
They wouldn't book them out to like kind of space them out more, but I don't know.
They kept trying to say like they viewed her issue as like an emergency situation. So like emergency situations, you can't have an appointment. It's like, okay, man, like whatever.
Like scheduled appointments with my neurologists and stuff, and like do you want a virtual appointment or do you want to come in? I want a virtual appointment. I'll just do this, but they're not emergency. It's just checkups, like routine checkups. Like, is that a real question? Do I want to drive 20 minutes and sit in your office for an hour, or do I want you to call me when you're ready? I want the latter, of course. Stupid question is that.
Oh, God. I can't wait for like our post-COVID world, to be honest. But anyways, guys, that's going to be it for today's show. Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Patreon.com/Trending Now Network if you want to support the channel in any financial way. Like I said, because of this week and the issue right now, I don't know what the schedule is going to look like. I wanted to do a General Strike podcast show tomorrow. I'm still going to try. Tentatively at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, I'm going to do a show. I can't do it in the afternoon. But that might change. So just want to give everyone a heads up. And also, again, Wednesday is what we're looking at for our preview show for Anthony Joshua Pulev, Shakur Stevenson versus Toko Khan Clary, and Chris Colbert versus Amadella. Like, there's actually a ton of fights this weekend.
Bob versus Anthony Parker.
Oh, that's right.
Parker.
I said that.
Did you say that?
No, I didn't. Never mind.
4 cards on this weekend.
It's a lot. Two cards on DAZN this weekend alone.
And one of them is Joseph Parker versus Junior Bob, that's a appointment television right there. That's you must watch TV. I'll probably watch it because again I'm an addict, but that fight is awful, boy, huh? Woo!
It's gonna be over quick, right?
Probably not. No, I mean, you think you're taking Parker, right?
Absolutely.
I think it goes the distance. Maybe he stops him late.
Yeah, Parker beats Usyk, man. I'm not joking. That wasn't a troll.
He knocks him out or he outboxes him?
No, I don't think he knocks him out. I don't think either one of those guys really presents knockout power in the heavyweight division.
So he outboxes Usyk.
Yeah, sure. No, Gary. Derek Chisora
didn't outbox him. He hit him some shots. He didn't sit there and win rounds with them, right? Like, if you're going to beat Usyk, you're not going to do it on points in the heavyweight division. You better knock him out, which I said could happen. Like, there's
you can absolutely beat you can absolutely beat Usyk on points. Why? Because Breedis almost did it.
Breedis beats Mike Tyson.
So
Breedis is really good.
Honestly, that last show was really fun. That was a great time. Anyways, guys, have a good one. Find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, all social media platforms. Gary.
Find me all forms of social media, 3D Boxing blog. From Texas to the world, thank you and God bless.
And remember, guys, at all times, fuck the police and free Palestine.
And too, and hold them accountable too.
Oh, but that's encompassing.
Okay.
Yeah, like fuck police means keep them accountable, I guess.
Accountable.
Yeah.
Hold them accountable.
Yeah, fire them. Put them in jail.
And just publicize it. Hold them accountable. Right? They work for you. People don't understand that they're public servants. They work for you.
Oh man, did you see what happened in LA the other day in front of the mayor's house?
I did. I did.
Those cops are crazy. LAPD, man. It's a fucking gang. Have a good one, guys. Peace.